Ahoy there, mateys. It's your brother Dennis. I've always prayed in my relationship with God that as God teaches me things, that He would teach me in a way that I could digest it in a way that I could spit it back out, teach it to other people. And I've recently learned, I think I've begun to grasp an important thing about my relationship with God that I wanted to take some time and try to pass on. An old friend of mine, a good old friend of mine, Mike, as part of a conversation, passed on a small passage to me out of Matthew. I'll share it here in a minute. We don't have a copy of the message, and I should probably throw a quick disclaimer in here that the message isn't exactly a translation of the Bible so much as it is a paraphrase of the Bible. I think the intent of the writer was just to cut some of the Elizabethan English out of there to make it a little more easily understood. I ain't got a problem. I do prefer the NIV and try to cut out some of that Elizabethan complication in my own personal time, but whatever, I digress. The passage we're talking about here is Matthew 11, verse 28 through 30. It might be familiar to you. In the Message, it's translated like this: Are you tired, worn out, burned out on religion? Come to me, get away with me, and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. This is Jesus speaking. He says this: learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me, and you'll learn to live freely and lightly. I'm going to talk to you about the idea of the unforced rhythms of grace. See, that phrasing has helped me get a grip on a thing that I've been trying to understand myself in a place that I've been trying to get into in my walk with God for a little while now. I know the scriptures tell us to seek ye first the kingdom of God, and then all these things will be added to you. And so it kind of began to make sense to me that instead of trying to discern, where am I supposed to go? What am I supposed to be doing? Where am I supposed to be? In moving in ministry, trying to, these books and Thicker Than Water Ministries and all these things that I've been trying to generate and keep moving, it occurred to me that maybe the wiser thing to do is to just get close to God and let Him do it. And it's a similar thing, I think, if you need a biblical example to what I'm trying to say here. Abraham, I think, is the best example because he's given the promise that you're going to have kids. And they were old, him and Sarah were old, but he had that promise. And so he began to try to do things to activate that promise that made sense to him at the time, right? And it wasn't clear at first. Then, an angel, you're familiar with the story. Why am I telling you? If you're watching this, you probably know. The angel comes back to Abraham and says, no, out of you and Sarah's loins, this is going to come, because she offers her maidservant Hagar to him, which, man, and let me just say, when we are trying to force and move God's will along in our lives, we create frustration. We add complication to our lives that doesn't have to be there. And then we set ourselves up for failure and disappointment when things don't go the way we think they should go, when we're trying to force the will of God to try to make things happen. That's the situation I've been telling people I am the most lost, recently have felt like one of the most lost Christian people I've ever known. For all these things that seem to be moving forward in ministry, and then we got these kids, and our finances are zapped, and just life took some turns I wasn't expecting, and it was just like, I can't make this work. This isn't working. I have to try something else in my own walk. It's just interesting how things have unfolded, and I may be at the cusp of in my understanding of this and letting it operate in my life. A little bit about where I'm at right now. So my friend Jamie, I worked with her at Loving Care. This was back in 2011. And people that are meaningful to me and that I connect with, I'm like a rolling stone that gathers moss. I gather people like that. As I move through life, I keep the people that I connect with, keep in contact with them, especially the ones that reach back and keep a relationship with me. And she works at this place, this school, and just randomly reached out to me. She heard a conversation. They might be looking for a guidance counselor, suggested I email my resume to her. This is okay, and now it's just turned into this whole, man, when I look at the micro things about this as it is unfolded, 3-4 weeks ago, we got an email from Job and Family Services that there was some kinship funds available, and okay, whatever. There was a deadline for the application, and just barely, I had to actually drop it off at Job and Family Services. Boom. And this week, 2 days ago, money came in the mail, rent's covered. So in this jobless period of time, God has pretty much given me the wing for you need to be available to chase down where you're going to go to college, how you're going to get this degree, what you need, how you need to do it. You need to be available for these interviews, so you can't be working right now. So let me go ahead and pay your bills for you so you can be where you need to be. I told Melinda last night, I don't think I've ever been in a place in my walk with God as I begin to understand the idea of unforced rhythm. I've never been more calm and at peace than I am right now in my walk as this is unfolded. So now the idea of the unforced rhythm of grace and rhythms of grace and how God kind of moves us through things. If you, beginning with the illustration, if you think about God's kind of will and his work in our lives as a stream, and it's constant fluid motion. It's always going. And what I've been doing is the equivalent of that is like trying to move rocks to try to get the water to flow in between where I want it to. I have been trying to manipulate things and to force things, or I don't know, if maybe not consciously force even, but we sense sometimes some things that God may want us to do, or certain directions that we should maybe be heading in, things that make sense to us, and so we try to kind of move towards those things, and that's us forcing God's work, right? And as I said before, that creates all kinds of frustration in us and doubt, and well, that didn't work the way I do. What am I supposed to do? Unforced rhythm of grace just says it's the stream, right? You got to learn to float in it and let God's will carry you to where God needs you to be, and only act and make decisions when you come to a place where you have to make those decisions, and you can only make those decisions based on the information that you currently have in the moment for that. It's pointless to try to move along in God's will for your life without all the information that you need to do that, right? I have the faith, and I do believe that God can change my situation in a heartbeat, in a moment. I can prosper. And I've been trying to create that for myself rather than figuring out, God, why don't I sit back, why don't I get close to you and see what you have for me? When I begin to make that shift in my approach to God is when all this whole crazy thing started to open up for me. The assumption is that God is always at work. So, but that's, if you think about, if you've ever had to plan a surprise party for somebody, right? And what's the work involved to plan a surprise party for a person? You got to find a place to do it. You got to figure out what the cost may or may not be for that place. You got to figure out how to get all the people that you intend to invite to the surprise party without the person that you're trying to surprise catching on to the surprise party. And you coordinate all those things to put the surprise party together for that person. That's a lot of work that goes into doing that, right? That is a surprise party for one person, for one event in a person. It's not even their life. It's one event in their life, right? And God and it's God's plan. We don't refer to it as a thing that it's not God's planning. We all say, well, it's God's plan. That means it's a thing it's accomplished, it's done. God's plan, it's done, it's active. He's already working his plan. And it's not, and we're all in the surprise party. Surprise! But it's for everybody for all time. And there's people always dying and replenishing every day. And even that, when Jesus said, "It is finished," that means God's plan is completed. Okay, so if God is always and already working, and His plan is already established and put in place, and He already knows everything, then all we really have to do is figure out how to connect how to just float in that stream, right? How to calm ourselves, how to be at peace, how to communicate with God, and then just flow into the unforced rhythm. So, how do you do it? Well, what I've figured out thus far is, first, I'm on point every day with my devotional time. And I try to approach God in that devotional time, not because I want something from Him. That's another thing. I think maybe, I don't know if you do it too, but I'm guilty of sometimes. My most intense times with God are the times that I feel like I need something from God. So I'm like trying to butter Him up with my time. And that's not the right approach. I need you, God, to bless the things that I'm working on and move me through this thing that I'm working on. And it just simply doesn't work like that. The better approach to your daily devotional time, I've figured out, is just like, let me just get in your lap, God. You know? Let me just get in your lap and relax. I don't need anything from this but the fact that I'm taking meaningful time to sit down and try to communicate with you, God. And that unforced rhythm, it's that understanding that there's an ever-flowing, unrolling thing that God already knows everything. He's already doing it. And it's just weird how now everything just seems to be falling in place in ways that I couldn't anticipate and I couldn't open for myself and couldn't do for myself. Yeah, it's still kind of a work in progress, but I needed to stop and try to slow down and communicate a thing. Plus, I haven't done a post in a little while, and I enjoy doing it. And just, man, I got into that. Oh man, that working that temporary job 4 10s a week, and my wrist got messed up, and I'm just sitting there like, God, this ain't working. I gotta do something different. And maybe you right now watching this are in the same place. God, I don't understand the place I'm in right now, and what I'm doing doesn't seem to be working, and my life doesn't seem to be kind of producing the fruit that I feel like that it should be producing, and I need to do something different. Man, try to get a hold of the idea of this, the unforced rhythms of grace. The idea that God is already working, and it's His plan, and the plan is already done. He's in the stage of executing His plan, right? And so really all we have to do, seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all these things will be added unto you. I mean, just get yourself cuddled by God, right? Let Him give you a little binky, and it'll work out. Hey, if nobody's told you today, I love you, and I'm happy to do a little check-in here, and I hope that something I said here has been coherent enough that you can get a hold of what I'm trying to communicate. It's still a thing that's unfolding for me, and I'm beginning to understand how it works. On your devotional time, make it less about the things that you need and more about, let me just sit with you. Let me just sit with you with no motives other than to just sit with you. And in so doing, let me remember and keep in my mind, you're already working, and your plan is already complete. So you already know what you're doing. It's a surprise party for me. You already know. It's a surprise party for me that you have planned. And all I got to do is show up. All you got to do is show up. If nobody's told you today, I love you. Hope this has been a blessing to you, and check in with you again soon. Prayers appreciated.